Welcome to the High Value Sales Show of Eversprint.com. I'm Malcolm Louie, the managing member of Eversprint, and today we're speaking with Jimmy Liang, the founder, CEO, and chef of JP Fuji Group, the largest operating Pan-Asian restaurant group in the Northeast region. Welcome to the call, Jimmy.
Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you for having me.
Jimmy, you grew your company's revenue from $8.6 million in 2014 to $14.3 million in 2017, a 66% increase. And in 2018, you hit around $19 million.
Yep.
But before we talk about how you grew your company so fast, can you share a little bit more about what your company does beyond my quick intro and how your company differs from the competition?
Sure. First of all, the JP Fuji Group owns and operates the Pan-Asian restaurants with specialty in sushi, because that's what I do. I've been doing sushi since I was 14, opened up my first restaurant when I was 19. And from there, I just put my head down and I kept working. As opportunities arose, I jump on it if it's the right ones, and work hard with my team, developing great food, developing good service training programs for our staff. And I believe that's how we did it.
All right. And how would you say you differ from the other restaurant groups that are in the Northeast region?
I think what's different is that basically every single partner I have, we're all chefs one way or another. Such as myself, my specialty is sushi. And then one of my partners, he does kitchen food. I have a student who I made partner. He heads up the head of the sushi program for the whole entire business. One of my brothers, he's actually in charge of the kitchen food too. And then my director of operations, he's actually my cousin, Tony. And so it's our company is very family orientated, but it's not a family business. It just so happens that I employed a lot of my family. But the business was started between myself and my best friend, Peter, and we started the business back in 1998.
Right. Now, you mentioned kitchen food. What do you mean by kitchen food?
Kitchen food is Japanese kitchen food, such as, you've got your tempura, sukiyakis, your teriyakis. And then over the years, I've also expanded into a couple of wok stations inside the kitchen for cooked wok toss foods.
Okay, good. So no curries then?
In one of my restaurants, we have Japanese curry. Over at the B Cafe, we serve a wide variety of sushi. It's a quick serve restaurant, and we actually have homemade curry that's on the menu there. It's extremely popular.
Right. Yeah, I remember once a friend of mine, she asked me, she's a Japanese person, asked me where I wanted to go out for lunch. And I said, yeah, let's get some Japanese curry. And she kind of laughed because she said, oh, that's what we eat at home. We don't go out for that.
Yeah, and so, I mean, there's all, different levels of restaurants and different levels of food. Yes, certain things are viewed more as home style cooking, but I think that's also acceptable in the in the marketplace in terms of a restaurant. So like I said, our curry is very popular. We pretty much sell out of it every day, and we only make a certain amount. So first come, first serve.
Wow. Now I'm getting hungry for some curry. Now I haven't had Japanese curry in a while. That might be my dinner for tonight. So,
sounds good. Sounds good to me.
So your revenue grew from $8.6 million in 2014 to $19 million in 2018.
Yep.
What were the three biggest drivers of your growth over the past 4 years?
Really, it's been a lot of opportunities in terms of there's a lot of new developments in Boston. And whenever there's a new development, a lot of developers are looking for restaurants and restaurant owners to work with them. And I think I kind of took advantage of the boom at the time. And so after I negotiated all different sorts of deals for all my restaurants, I just went ahead and I started building them one after the other. So the increased revenue, it's really in the increased amount of stores that I did. So with every restaurant I open up, I mean, the revenue stream is there, and that's why it, it grew so much. For example, I open a restaurant, one of my restaurants, let's say the one in Boston. Right away, I was already doing a couple million. We've been there for 2 years. Now we're closing on 4 million. So as the business stays in business a little bit longer, people get to know us, more people come in, sales grow, therefore the revenue grows. But that's kind of the way how I've been able to do it, with a huge focus on serving great quality food and giving my customers great service when they do come in.
Right. Now, what pricing wise, where do you position yourself? Mid end, high end, low end?
We're really in the mid end category,
Okay.
because I firmly believe in giving people great food at a very reasonable and affordable price. So we're not really competing with high end restaurants, although our food is very high end. And the way our restaurants are, it's nice mid level, but it's the whole entire package. It's the whole
Right.
entire. Yep.
Okay. So the biggest driver then is just the growth in Boston of new developments, and you riding along with that and opening up new branches, new chains, and at the same time, would you lump this as a separate driver, or maybe altogether, namely the sales of your same store restaurants year on year have been growing on its own?
Within same store, there's continuous growth. And if one restaurant stagnates a little bit, I look at that restaurant and see what I can do to increase the growth again. Whether it's in terms of changing menu items, increasing specials, having better chefs, or if it's service, then we focus on the service issue. I mean, within this business, there's never a lack of issues per se.
Right.
There's always something I'm dealing with.
Yep.
But all in all, it's staying focused, working with my team, and addressing every issue as they come across my lap. And and the other thing is it's educating people as well. I believe in investing in my workforce. I actually give a lot of my employees, the ones that wants it, English classes. I actually offer them financial classes as well. And that's just on the side. And then in terms of training, we have a very vigorous training process for the new hirees.
Right. Okay. So let me recap to see if I'm on the same page with you on the drivers of your growth. One, you open a lot of new branches. Number two, you are focused on growing your same store sales. And number three, you provided your team with training and education that goes beyond just the work training, but education they would appreciate
Absolutely.
on the English and finance side.
Absolutely, because I think a lot of business owners, they miss the mark on in terms of looking at their employees as investment, because your human capital is huge.
Yep.
And within my business, I mean, with servers and chefs and drivers, buses, it's a big operation. And for me to understand that and realize that, and then to put more money into the investment side of people capital per se, I think that's really helped out our business quite a bit.
Right. Now, are you finding it hard to find staff for your restaurants? I hear that quite often among various industries, with employment being so low, unemployment being so low right now.
Oh yeah, I mean it's always a challenge in terms, whether it's during this economic cycle or the ones previous. I mean, just like every trade has its own timing, has its own ebb and flow. I mean, there's been times where we benefited from, like you said, the high unemployment rates, then we'll be able to get higher quality people. But when the unemployment rates goes low, I mean, we're left with whatever or whoever that wants to come and apply. And at that point, we just have to work with what we have, and but beyond working with what we have, I mean, it's really educating everybody about it. So I think it's tough to find good people during any economic cycle. One of the bigger differences with me is that a lot of my employees, they actually are new immigrants from China, and because I'm Chinese, and we actually so a lot of those same employees were the first job that they have when they first arrived to the United States of America, and a lot of them, they stay working with me for a long time because they realize what kind of company we are and that we care about them, and we want to help them. I mean, oftentimes my managers, because they're bilingual, they'll be translating a letter for any one of my employees or staffers. If they get a letter in the mail, they can't read it, they'll just bring it into work. We'll have somebody read it for them, translate it for them, and make sure that they understand what's going on.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty important. And I imagine, and I think, being Chinese myself, I imagine, if you give them the opportunity to have their first job in the United States, and that goes a long way among Chinese folks, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. And oftentimes we actually, so a bunch of my chefs, because they're from China, and they tell me because of technology, the world's only gotten smaller. And they constantly tell me that Fuji is rather well known in the Taishan area in China, because that's where I'm from. And a lot of immigrants from there, even before they come here, they already know, or they already realize that Fuji could be one of their landing spots in terms of a job. So when they come to the United States, if they're looking for jobs, we're usually one of their first destinations. And I can't say for all Chinese or all Asians from other areas of China, but definitely a lot of the Taishanese from Taishan, China, when they first come here, they definitely seek us out.
Right. Now, do you actively go to China and Japan and look for staff?
Looking for staff, not so much, because we're in the United States of America. My interest is in the economy of our country, and I think there are plenty of people, good, able-bodied people here in the United States that can and do hold a lot of the jobs that I have. I mean, at some point, if I become international or I grow even bigger, and if I need talent elsewhere that I can't find in the United States, absolutely, I would do that. But at this point in time, up till this point in time, I have not had to do that. And we actually train a lot of our chefs ourselves. We put a lot of time and efforts into it. I have one student, and he has gone on to take 12 students. And the majority of my head chefs are my grand students. So they're learning everything from soup to nuts, from start to finish, from me or my student. And they can work. And so right away, they learn our system, they work within our system, and they develop within our system.
Right. Okay. So you never had a need at this time, to go abroad and find a experienced chef for the particular type of cuisine that you want to have at your restaurant?
No, not yet. Not yet. Again, we have all sorts of talent here in the United States of America. And,
right.
And I love working with everybody that works with me. We have a lot of talented chefs. For example, when I first wanted to open my Bistro Chi, it's an authentic Chinese bistro, and that's not food that I do myself, but it's food that I grew up eating. But I had always had a strong desire to do that. And so when I first concepted the restaurant, I wrote the menu. And then I put out the word that I'm looking for Chinese chefs, and sure enough, one of the biggest chefs in Chinatown here in Boston, he came to me, and he wanted to work with me because he heard through other chefs that I'm a good boss, that I'm actually a chef, and that I'm nice to people, and that I'm good to work with, as long as you work hard. And so he sought me out, and he wanted to work for me, and he's still working for me right now. And then after that, I as I started doing different restaurants with wok systems and stuff, I mean, I actually employed the best chefs that Chinatown had to offer at the time, and they're all under my employment because a lot of these guys, they've been working in Chinatown for years and years, and not to knock anybody or anybody's business per se, but a lot of Chinese restaurants, the kitchens are not the cleanest. The working environment is not the most comfortable. And so we provide something different. Because I have a Japanese food background, and with Japanese cuisine, cleanliness, well, it should be, I mean, I think with every cuisine, cleanliness should be the number one priority, but sad to say that it is not. But I was trained in a way where cleanliness is next to godliness, and I need my places to be clean. Therefore, all my kitchens are very clean. And so a lot of these chefs, when they come, they already know what to expect. Now they're working in a nice, comfortable environment. Everything's clean. They upkeep everything too. We have a work schedule. I mean, the first time I presented my my cleaning schedule to my chef, to one of my new Chinese chefs, and they looked at it. They said, and I said, "Is that a problem?" And they said, "No, it's not a problem, but it's just something that we're not used to doing."
Right.
And so I would work with them on it a few times, and afterwards, then they just follow my protocol and they do exactly what they need to do. And over time, that's become a part of our culture, our chefing culture or our kitchen culture per se. That we want things to be super clean. You can eat, You can practically eat off the floor. Not that you would want to, but yeah, we're very clean.
Right. Now, yeah. I mean, it's if you ask anyone who has a cleaner kitchen, a Japanese restaurant or a Chinese restaurant, people almost always are going to say Japanese. And it's just, I mean, this is how it is, right?
Right.
It's simply just because at the Chinese restaurants, they just don't take that extra effort to clean that extra layer of whatever, and it's just building up over time.
Yeah, well, you know, I think a lot of it has to do with the kind of people that are in these jobs. And when I say this, and if I'm offending anybody that's listening to this, I apologize very much ahead in advance. I'm just very frank with my words. I'm just very honest about it. It is what it is. And sometimes a lot of the chefs that we have people working, that other restaurants has working for them, maybe they didn't come from a chefing school background. Maybe they didn't come from a higher end upbringing per se. But not to say that people that grows up with a good background that they're not dirty. People are people. But then there are certain characteristics that comes with people within certain social confines of their lives, or even financial. So, I mean, it's understandable to a certain degree, but it's up to the business owners themselves to make sure that everybody operates within their working standards. And so if you have an owner that has a certain standard that they want to push out there and work with the chefs, well, that's very possible. They just need to educate these chefs on what needs to be done and the processes that comes with it. And you work with these chefs, educate them, and make sure that they execute your vision. But I feel like a lot of restaurant owners, they may or may not do that, but because of the way I was trained as a chef and the way that I was raised, my grandmother used to say to me that, we're poor, but we're not trash, and you need to stop acting like it. So, yes, I mean, she kept the house. I mean, I come from nothing, but my grandmother constantly kept our house completely clean. She would clean the floors probably once a day, dusting at least twice a week. She really put a lot of work into keeping a clean house for all the kids and all the adults that lives with her. I mean, my family is no different than any other modern immigrant family. I was raised by my grandmother, and just like a lot of kids out there are, because when we first came to the States, my parents were always very busy working and trying to put food on the table, roof over our heads, and clothing on our backs. And when you first come to the United States, those are the big challenges. And my parents were always constantly working to make sure that my brothers and we had the basics, and we did. And my grandmother was the one that actually took really good care of us, myself and all my cousins as well. But I believe my grandmother raised us right, and I think a lot of that I've taken into my business and try to expand on that as well.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's. I think your grandmother would be proud seeing what you've done so far. And I think you're right about ultimately it's up to the owner, right? Because I've been to, a very popular fast food, Chinese style chain, right?
Right.
Counter style, and their kitchens are very clean, right? And it's
right
because they chose to have it be that way, right? So again, I think that it's all down to the processes and the objectives of the owners. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, when you talk about new developments in Boston driving some of your growth, are you talking about like shopping malls, strip malls, or even developments where people are building a condo and they want to have restaurants nearby, so they reach out to encourage you to...
It's exactly what you just said. It's really a lot of apartment buildings, condos, because every time a developer builds something, usually there's retail on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And with retail, what you're going to get for retail is usually going to be restaurants, a CVS or 7-Elevens, something. And then it's up to the developers to decide on what they want. And so the developers that wanted high-end Japanese restaurants or Asian concepts in their buildings, they would call me, and I would sit down with them and see if it's a good fit, to see what kind of rent structure we're looking at. The potential for growth and all those things. So that's what's really been driving it.
Mm-hmm. And how would you, can you dive a little bit deeper in how you would evaluate if a new condo building or complex is coming up and it makes sense for you to open a location there?
So it's funny that you just asked this, because I just had to explain it to some of my staff. The way I look at it, so my uncle, he doesn't speak a lick of English, but if you give him an engine, whether the words that are scribed on that engine, whether it's German, Korean, Japanese per se, whatever it is, or English, he doesn't understand it. But what he can do is take apart the whole entire thing, break it down, put everything back together, and that's his talent. And so certain people see things differently. And so for me, every time I go visit a location, first I would, look at the location, the surrounding area, see where it is in terms of growth. Am I at the beginning stages of it, in the middle of it, or maybe the end of it? So I would have to think of that myself, because sometimes there's new development and then there's redevelopment. So I would take all those things into consideration, and of course, the rent structure, if I can afford to be there, what kind of neighborhood is it, how much can I charge for food, I take all those things into consideration, and then I really need to step outside of the space that I'm touring, and then I would have to kind of close my eyes and see if I can see anything happening with this. And within 5 minutes, if I think that I can make a go at this, I'll definitely try to work on that location. But if I'm standing there 10-15 minutes and I'm racking my brain trying to see if I could see some sort of business that would come out of this with a good rent structure, and if I can't see it, I just won't see it, and I won't work with that location.
Right. Now, it sounds very much intuitive more than quantitative way of assessing.
Right. But the thing is, after I intuitively assess everything, I'll start, and I work my way backwards, and I'll start looking at different numbers or different data that, whether it's developers that's put together or developers hired people to help them put together, such as median income in the area, population in the area, age group of residents in that area. And I'll and I work backwards and look at all the data to see if it supports what I'm thinking intuitively. And if it's completely off base, there's something wrong, and it's probably something that I shouldn't be doing. But so far for me, I've been very lucky that my intuition has matched with all the data that people have provided for us, and it just happened to work out that way.
Right. Have you had any flops so far?
No, I can't say that I have.
Have you, like, for example, have you ever had a location that you thought would work and it didn't work? So what you then perhaps did not a complete failure, but instead you just remade the entire restaurant to better fit what was demanded?
Nope.
So you kind of been nailing it right at the get-go.
Yeah. Since 1998, I've been doing this 20 years as a restaurant owner. So.
Right. How many branches do you have now?
I've got 8, but I've got because I lost 2 due to eminent domain within the city that those 2 restaurants were in because of new development, and so the city took back my 2 locations and worked out a reimbursement deal for me, and they just took over my business, my building. And paid me a certain amount of dollars that we agreed on, and I let those 2 restaurants go because the city needed it for some condo buildings, big parking lot, and a park per se. Mm-hmm. So I'm a team player, and you gotta work with the communities that you're in. And when the city came to me and talked to me about it, I said, absolutely, you won't expect a fight from me. I'm a team player. Let's just get this done.
Right.
I don't want a headache. You don't want a headache. I'm not going to cause you any problems, and please don't cause me any problems.
Yeah.
And let's start with a gentleman's agreement, and we'll work out the nitty gritty from there on.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
How did you guys, when you negotiate with a city like that, how do you sort out a price that everyone's happy with?
Well, it usually starts off with, so the process that we had was, they came and assessed all my all the equipment in the business, how much money I'm doing at the time, and then we averaged out to yearly, and then let's say if I were to move this business instead of closing it down, what kind of costs it would incur. A lot of different factors, but at the end of it, it's usually they point something out, I either agree or disagree, and if I disagreed, I would give them what I thought the cost would be.
Right.
But it's not as aloof as it sounds. It's not all about what I think. It's with numbers backed up. Let's say if I needed to move a kitchen, there's a company that I work with that they install my kitchens, and they don't really install my kitchens, but that's where I buy all of my equipment from.
Yep.
And they have a relocation service, and so I would talk to them and get a good definitive number from them. And if they said to me, well, it's going to cost an X amount of dollars, and then the city tells me that it's going to cost this, well, if it doesn't match up, then that's when we would have to start thinking about it. And I would tell them, well, these people I've been working with for a long time, they're very reputable. These are real life prices that we're working with, and so they would work with us on that, and they would vet out the companies. But at the end of it, it's all about open and honest communication and working with one another, and going from there. And both parties needs to agree on everything in order for this to happen. Yeah.
Yep. I totally can see that. Now, for your same-store sales growth, what type of numbers on average have you been getting on your 8 branches?
I mean, it's so you're going to see certain increases at different times of the year, and you're going to see certain lulls at different times of the year. And so I extrapolate all those numbers, and let's say if I know I'm going to be a little bit slow in the summertime, I need to make adjustments. Or let's say if I know I'm going to be busy in the wintertime, I also need to make adjustments. And when I say adjustments, it's usually the amount of food that we order, the amount of staffers that we have on hand. That's a big part of it. Sometimes, I've seen spikes of, the business increasing 25% in 1 month. And so when that happens, okay, what made that happen? Did a marketing campaign go out and that brought more people in? Or was it an interview that I did with somebody, whether it's your interview or an interview that I would do with, let's say, Boston Magazine or the Boston Globe or some sort of big major publication, or was I on TV recently, that kind of stuff. And then once I nailed down to the change that happened and then the increased growth, once I figure that out, then I need to think about, okay, now I've got all these people coming in. What am I doing before that's not helping me bring in business? Was my service lacking? Was the quality of food different? So I need to analyze all sorts of different things and then make adjustments as we progress. So I mean, same in-store sales. Like I said, I know a lot of people think of it in terms of years, and I do too. But I mean, sometimes, for example, my ink block location, 1 month, it grew by 30%. There's just no rhyme or reason to it.
And you're talking about month on month, 30%.
Yeah. And then so from 1 month, it grows 30%. The next month, it maintains at 30% of growth.
Right.
Okay.
How about on a year-on-year basis, though, typically?
Year-on-year basis, I think we typically see about 10 to 15% same-store in-store growth.
Okay. Now, how does that compare to the industry average for restaurants also in the mid-market and perhaps within the same types of cuisines that you serve? Is that average, above average?
I believe it's above average, but also at the same time, a lot of restaurateurs, they need to understand that the life of your business has a shelf life as well. I mean, there's all sorts of statistics out there. And one of those statistics is that an average restaurant has a shelf life of anywhere between 10 to 15 years. So what that means is that, you open a restaurant, and if it makes it to those years, and those will be your peak years, and after that, it starts falling off. So now I've been in business for 20 years. And so that happened to me as well, but I made adjustments. So one of my restaurants, I was at this one location for about 13, 14 years, and I started to see that the restaurant was old. It was a little bit run down. The quality of food and the quality of service is still the same. We still did a very good business. But all I hear about people talking about is how weathered and tired the restaurant is. And so an opportunity came up. I actually took the same business, moved it down the street, but everybody knew that it was the same restaurant. Just by doing that, my business grew 100%.
Because because it's new in some people's eyes, and then two, you refreshed everything when you made it.
Oh yeah, and on top of it, I created a new menu, a little bit more sophisticated one, a different type of environment per se, and so I think it's brought in a lot more people than it used to.
Right.
Yeah.
So you gave up your old location, moved to a new one.
Yeah.
And then that new one gave you the chance to reinvent the restaurant a little bit.
Yep. Oh yeah. And so it's also constant reinvestments back into the business too. I mean, a lot of businesses, their furniture gets old, and they don't do a damn thing about it.
Yep.
Right. Or if the floor is completely sticky, exactly. That's not a good thing. So you need to reinvest right back into the business, and the developers that I do business with, right away they realize what kind of business owner I am. I'm willing to reinvest right back into the business. I'm constantly investing into my human capital. So I think with my track record of being a business owner, restaurateur, or a chef, a lot of the developers that I work with, they recognize this, and they want somebody like me to be on their property, because they know I'm going to take care of everything. And that I'm not just relying on the landlords to do their job. Obviously, they have their own due diligence, and we communicate about all those things. But I mean, I'm not going to call them for every single little thing that happens, because we live in the real world, and when certain situations arise, you have to take care of it right then and there. Yes, I understand protocol that you got to call somebody who needs to call somebody who might need to call somebody else to come and see you. But with the way we do it, sometimes if a certain situation arises, I'll call the landlord and say, hey, this is the issue. Can you find somebody? Can you send somebody down? And if they say, no, my people are tied up over there. And I'll say, you know what? That's fine. I'll seek an alternative solution. I'll find somebody myself. I'll keep you in the loop. Let's work together as a team.
Right.
And that's exactly how we approach things.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, your third driving factor, educating your team, both for work-related things and non-work-related stuff. You get a sense of how that has helped you on the employee satisfaction and retention rate perspective?
Our employee retention rate is extremely high. Ever since I've been in the business, all the way down to servers, because a lot of servers, they like to switch. They go from one restaurant to another, no problem.
Yeah.
But a lot of my servers, they like not even just servers, but I'm just using them as an example because that's more of a turnover. But overall, it's about caring about your people, understanding what they go through. If something's happening to them on the personal level, it's going to affect their work quality. And those things, a lot of those human factors that we just need to understand. Not to say that I'm a pushover of a CEO and that every time somebody calls in sick that they don't get in trouble for it. Obviously, people's going to try to do things in very inventive and different ways. But when you constantly communicate with your staff and you understand where they are and they understand where you are, more than likely they're going to try to be better workers for you because they understand that it's a team effort. And if they see that I'm giving them English classes, just so that, because my shtick is, because when I was growing up, I was my family translator. I took my cousins that came to the States. I would get them enrolled in school. The adults, I would have to go and help them with Social Security cards or green cards.
Yeah.
And even when I was a child, my grandfather and I would walk up to one of the old neighborhood pharmacies. It was actually called a neighborhood pharmacy. We would go in there and pay our gas bill, our electrical bill.
Right.
So through personal experience, I've realized that even if there's just one person within the family that can get around a little bit better than most people can,
makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes a huge difference in their lives.
Yep.
For example, something as small as getting a letter translated. Now, if you're a newcomer to this country, you don't read English, you get a letter from the government, you're going to be worried a little bit. And you don't know what it is. And then, if they have hardships, finding people to help them even translate that letter, when they come to work, that's all they're going to be thinking about. Yeah,
it's a drag on their day.
Right, it's a drag in the day, exactly like you said. And so we try to, the basis of what we try to do is to reduce the amount of drag that people have in their day, so that they can become a better worker for you at the end.
Yeah, it's a good plan.
Right. So it's a lot of it. It's just team effort and understanding people and trying to work with people, really.
Yep. And that's led to higher retention rate and higher employee happiness.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I put on financial classes for people working with local banks.
Yep.
Because, for example, when my family first came to the States, I still remember I was in the 4th grade and I wanted to learn how to play the drums. And so I said to my folks, I said to my father, I said, Dad, I want to learn how to play the drums. And he goes, okay, well, what do we need to do? I said, well, I need to go rent drums. And he goes, okay, then we'll do that on my day off. And I said, okay, Dad.
Awesome, Dad.
Right? And so, so on my dad's day off, he took me to, I took him to the place where we needed to go. And right away, I went in there and said, I want to learn how to play drums. I want to rent drums. And the salesperson, I still remember like it was yesterday. And he says to me, he goes, well, do you have your checkbook with you? I said, oh, yeah, I have a checkbook with me. He goes, okay, well, do you have a credit card? And I go, what's a credit card?
Right.
And so he started explaining it to me. And then I turned around and I asked my dad, I go, Dad, do you have a credit card? And he goes, what's a credit card?
Yeah.
And so I explained it to my father. And my father's like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have a credit card. And then as soon as my father said that, I go, you know what, Dad, that's okay. I don't really want to learn how to play the drums anyways. It's too noisy. I said, I'm going to think about a different instrument. And when I decide on a different one, I'll let you know. I said,
Okay.
but we're not going to learn. I said, but I'm not going to learn how to do the drums. And he looks at me and he goes, all you've been talking about is these drums for weeks now. And all of a sudden now you're not going to play the drums. And I said, Dad, don't worry about it. It's totally fine. And he looks at me and goes, I'm sorry, I don't have a credit card. And I go, Dad, that's not your fault. It's not something that you knew, not something that I knew. So it's not your fault that you don't have a credit card, but it's fine. And so through personal experiences as such, and that was one of my driving forces to give a lot of my employees financial classes, because they need to understand what credit is, what paying taxes mean, how to buy a home, understanding the all of a sudden this new economic and monetary system that the United States has to offer.
Yep.
And by educating my workforce on that, I think it helps their quality of life quite a bit.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Can't make decisions not having the knowledge to make them.
Exactly.
Switching gears a little bit,
Sure.
what are your 2019 plans in terms of sales and new store openings?
Usually when I plan stuff out, I start with very basic stuff. In terms of money goals, I have rough estimates of where I want to land, but that's not my driving force.
Okay.
So what I usually do is, so I'm still on a path of expansion, and I still want to expand, and I'm still expanding. So to answer your question, in 2019, I already I'll be opening a high-end food kiosk, a sushi kiosk in the financial district here in Boston. So that's in the plans. And then, right away, with a brand new business like that, I've never been in a food hall, so this is completely new to me. But at the end of the day, I know what my base expenses are going to be, and I know, and I'm hoping for a certain amount of sales. And one of the reasons why these developers are asking me to go there, because we have a decent name here in the Boston, in the state of Massachusetts, and that I'm able to draw people in there.
Right.
Even just when I was out there looking at the location, I ran into a lot of people that was just walking by saying hello to me, and I didn't even know who some of them are.
Right.
If not most of them. So that was a great sign for me to know that a lot of my customers are actually in the financial district. So when I started thinking about this kiosk, this sushi kiosk, the food is the most important thing to me. So I actually just crafted a menu as of last night, and I gave it to Chloe. She's going to put it together for me, and we'll send it over to these developers. So that's one project I'm working on. There's another one that's coming up in Cambridge. I'm not ready to talk about that just yet, but all in all, this year I can anticipate definitely one opening, if not 2 to 3 openings, actually. And in the meanwhile, all this is happening, I'm working on a line of sauces that my restaurants currently already use, and they're all original recipes from me because I've been the chef. And so I'm working on putting a line of sauces together so that I could either sell it at retail or to other restaurants or for distribution. I actually also signed a TV contract. That's supposed to be, I'm supposed to be shooting some sort of scripted reality television show for.
Scripted reality, that's funny.
It's an oxymoron in itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. But something. So, I have a lot of different plans in the works, and actually Chloe's helping me work on a clothing line as well. So I'm trying to do things a little bit differently. But everything always ties right back to the restaurant business, because that's what I do on a day-to-day basis, and that's how I earn my paycheck, and it's what I know best. So everything always goes right back to that. Yeah.
Right. So from a marketing and sales perspective, what do you think are your biggest challenges for 2019 to hit your soft objectives, your rough objectives?
I hate to say it, but it's cost.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, marketing costs, advertising costs, it's a lot of money. Whether you work with, for example, and I won't name who. So for a long time, everybody had always asked me who my publicist is, but I really don't have one. But for not having a publicist, I'm in magazines, radios, TV, print ads, quite a bit. And so people always ask me who my publicist is, and I said I don't have one. I said, is this something I should seek out? And this is a few years back. This is when I was going kind of crazy with a lot of growth, and I expect the growth will also start again this year because I took a couple of years off from opening restaurants and from working on new projects just to focus on the existing. And now that I've done that, I've reshored up my infrastructure in terms of my business. So now I'll probably be seeing another explosion of growth in the coming years because I've got things lined up and things like that. So, but yeah, I mean, it's that's where we're at right now. But a lot of it, yeah. So I actually sought out this publicity company, and I went to see them. We sat down, and out of one of the first things that they asked me was, who does your marketing and advertisement, and how much do they charge? And I looked at them. I said, oh, why? And they said, because for us to be able to provide you with this level of service, we would need a retainer of about $80,000 a year. And I said, whoa, that's a lot of money. And they said, well, what we do is it doesn't, we get your name out. So again, who does your stuff now? And I looked at them. I said, me, myself, and I.
Right. Okay.
And they were like, how have you been able to do this? How have you been able to get yourself on so many things? And I said, I kind of don't. I said, I honestly, I just put my head down and I keep working all the time. And just see things and let things and let the chips fall where they may, and that's how I did it. So after meeting with that company, it actually reinvigorated myself in terms of what I can do for the business versus seeking outside help.
Right.
And advertisement, all those things. I mean, we worked with different advertising companies, and it's just a lot of money. And the rate of return on advertisement pieces, let's say if you send out 10,000 menus, you'd be lucky to get a return rate of 5 to 10% of people that you send to. So I mean, doing all the numbers and things like that, I really try to keep a very conservative budget in terms of marketing and advertisement costs.
Mm-hmm.
But that's extremely prohibitive for a lot of restaurants out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you say you keep a conservative budget, are you talking like 10% of your revenue, 5%?
No, I mean, every year I probably spend a couple of $1,000, if that at all.
Wow, that's minimal.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, it's very minimal. But I mean, the first time I did an advertising piece was, let's see, I was probably 21 years old, and this little girl from a local volleyball booster club came and asked me if I would do an ad in their booster club page. And I said, how much is it? She says $25. I said, okay, I can afford that.
Right.
So that was really my first advertisement piece that I did.
Wow. Do you still have that?
I'm sure I have it somewhere.
It's worth framing.
Oh yeah, but it was $25. It was to support the local high school.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great cause. But overall, I mean, as time went on, I just constantly put my head down and kept working again, and I worked with the community quite a bit, and so a lot of our advertising and marketing is really from word of mouth from a lot of my regular customers. Again, you treat people right, they'll treat you right, and
yep.
and that's something that I firmly believe in.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've never tried the likes of Groupon, for example?
Okay, well, Groupon, those things, we do them here and there, not all the time. But honestly, sometimes I mean, I've turned Groupon, I've turned a lot of different sites down because the amounts of dollars that they want, I just don't think it's good,
Mm-hmm.
or that I can afford anyways, or that any business owner can afford. For example, I mean, you're getting 70 cents on the dollar back, and they get the 30 cents.
Right.
And for restaurant owners, especially in this day and age, our profit margin is 10 to 15%.
Right.
So I'm losing money if I don't get a good deal with Groupon. But luckily, I've been able to use my business to leverage for better rates because my business is, it's not, I mean, I still think it's a small business, but to a lot of companies that wants clients such as myself that owns groups of restaurants, we become kind of a bigger client to them.
Yep.
And they're more than likely to work with me on that kind of stuff. And if they can't give me the rate that I want, then I just won't do it.
Yep.
Um,
I think
so,
arguably though, losing money on a Groupon customer could make sense, right? If you know, and you have the data to support it to give you comfort that you know that they're likely, some percentage of them are going to come back. And then when you work out the numbers, it makes sense. You're just paying to acquire a customer, a repeat customer.
in a sense, yes, but there's so many factors into that. I mean, when a new customer comes in, especially you're paying for it, right?
Yep.
But you don't know who's who.
Right.
And you only know towards the end of their meal when they pay. So you can't really offer somebody exceptional service or exceptional food per se. So every time we do some sort of thing with Groupon, I let everybody know we need full staff on. Management, you guys need to stay focused on the service. We're expecting a new batch of customers coming in, and you don't know who's who.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put our best foot forward, and we do that every day at pre-meal, anyways. But when you do know definitely something's happening, you're gonna try to, you're gonna try to elaborate on that a little bit more and make sure that your staff understands what you need to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Going back a little bit, now you mentioned
Mhm.
earlier your biggest challenge is coming on the cost side from marketing and sales.
Oh yeah.
And later on, you share with me you're only spending a couple thousand a year on your marketing and advertising.
Right.
So am I missing a piece of the picture here?
I think the piece of picture that you're missing is probably it's the strong word of mouth that we have from people.
Okay.
Because I've been in business for about 20 years, and when I first started, I didn't even have a liquor license, and I waited until I was 21 in order for me to get one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think my story had some traction, and from the very early stages of my business career, I've been written up in newspapers because of that story.
Yep.
I was written up in newspapers because I was a young owner.
Yeah.
And people like to talk about the challenges that I had, getting a liquor license because I simply was not old enough.
Yep.
A lot of people gravitated towards the good story that we had, I suppose. And we have a huge, almost cult-like following, where, yeah, I believe the word of mouth and our loyal customers, that's what a lot of people are not getting. But that's something that we have because we've worked 20 years, put our hearts and souls into every single customer, making sure that they have the best quality of food and the best service that we can provide them. And over time, I think we've built a very strong following. People are rooting for us. They're still rooting for us. And I'm just happy and I'm extremely grateful for all the support that I've gotten from the community at large.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, are you asking your customers for their email addresses, asking for their phone numbers, putting them in their loyalty programs of any sort?
I mean, I started a loyalty program a long time ago when I was younger, but because of the challenges of automating everything, computers and that kind of stuff, everything had to be put in manually. But the cost of doing what big companies do in terms of loyalty cards and all those things, using computer systems to help you update all the information and stuff like that, it's too cost prohibitive again. So our loyalty program kind of has fallen off track. But once I think once I can afford to do these things, I will bring it back, and I want to do it the right way. But in the time being, I mean, whenever I see regular customers, here's an extra sushi roll,
Right.
or here's a couple extra appetizers. Oh, I was in the back cooking something, and this is really great. You need to try this. Or I have a nice piece of tuna that just came in. I just cut it this morning. You should have this. And you know, and so like so that's kind of how we build the business up a little bit. And on top of it, Facebook is free. Yelp is free. You know, Instagram is free. A lot of social media platforms are free, and we try to take full advantage of the free platforms that we do.
Right.
So I think that also generates quite a bit of business. I mean, like on Facebook, you can do you can set like a $10 budget, and that $10 they'll shoot out different types of advertisement stuff to certain people, and once they reach the $10 goal, then they don't do it anymore. So I mean, like I strategically place certain ads at different at different times of whether it's the year, the month, or the day.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, one of the keys to a lot of small business owners is yes, learn how to utilize your free media platforms, because that's where it all is right now.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of reach from that.
Oh yeah, and the days of sending out menus to customers, those days are kind of long gone. And even for me, one of the things that I'm doing right now is so in my back office, I actually have I have a social media person / marketing person, and I have a graphics person, and then I have a social media person. So it's a team of 2 people, and then with the direction of whether it's coming from me or my director of operations, who's my cousin Tony, or sometimes even Chloe. They'll take the directions from us and run with it. But everything is extremely strategic. And so I think one of the best things that a small business owner can do is to understand these platforms and learn how to use them, because they're all free.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Free is good.
Oh, yeah.
3 last questions for you. Say you had you decided to go with a billboard along the freeway, one of the freeways in the Boston area that's moving at a good clip. Typically, these billboards, people only have 6 seconds to read a billboard before they drive by. What is your billboard message?
My billboard message, huh? I see. I'm terrible at these things. I'm terrible at these sales things. You know, I mean, 6 seconds. I don't know, something along the line of highest quality sushi. Been in business for 20 years. Serve over 400 pounds of fish per day. That's pretty much. Yeah. So I think, you know, it's giving people facts about my business to basically market or advertise without doing marketing or advertisement per se.
Yep. How many people does 400 pounds of fish feed?
Honestly, it's on a daily average. I think we serve about, I don't know. I don't even know how many thousands of people we serve every day. Honestly, I don't have that stat with me. If I looked into it, I'm sure I'll know. But from what I can see, we serve, I don't know, anywhere between, I don't know, 3,000-4,000 people a day at least. It's got to be. It's got to be. Yeah.
I mean, that's just kind of a huge amount of fish, you know, 400 pounds. I have trouble eating 12 ounces sometimes. So.
Oh yeah, but I mean, and that's what it is. A lot of our customers, they come and they don't eat one spicy tuna roll.
Yeah.
They eat like 3 or 4 of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I do that.
Oh yeah, exactly. So, and if you have enough of those customers, it's gonna, you know, run up the poundage of fish that we sell every day.
Yeah, if it's good fish. So.
Oh yeah, and then like through social media, sometimes like, you know, like again, if I have a nice piece of tuna that comes in, I'll take a picture, send it to my media, my marketing people or social media people, and then they start posting it, and then they start engagement online with customers that are, reaching out to them saying, oh wow, did this just come in today? Did Jim just cut it? Like, which store is he at tonight? And like they'll disclose all sorts of information, and people will come in.
Yeah.
For certain things.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You have a nice piece of sashimi grade tuna
Oh,
out
yeah.
there. Show a
Uh-huh.
picture. Yeah, that might get me to come in and go for it.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So for the people, yep. Go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
no. Go ahead.
So for the people who are now hungry for sushi and other foods that you serve, what's the best way for them to find out all the different restaurant ideas restaurant themes that you have and the locations?
Just go to my website, jpfujigroup.com. It lists all my properties. And then from there, it has links to each different website. And on the website, of course, we have our menus. That's the best way to go about it. But even if that's something that they, that won't satisfy them, all they need to do, again, is just type in JP Fuji Group online. A lot of things will come up, interviews that I've done. And people see exactly what we do. Like I said, I'm very open and honest about everything that we do. So, I mean, for example, there was a piece of fish called escalar. And I've had a problem with that fish for a long time. Why? Because escalar everybody serves it as white tuna, but there's no such thing as white tuna. It just so happens that this fish has the texture of what fatty tuna is, but it's not tuna. And then that fish naturally contains a lot of wax esters in its bodies, so that's why it tastes fatty. But it's not fat you're tasting; it's wax that you're tasting. And because when people say white tuna now becomes exotic, people want to try it. When that fish first came on the market, it was being sold at $3.50 a pound. Today, it's being sold at about $10 a pound, and it's a cheap fish. But a lot of people don't understand this; they don't know this. And so, at one point, I actually worked with a local state rep. His name is Bruce Ayers, to put together a bill on. Well, the big hope is to ban escalar from being sold in sushi restaurants. The small hope is to at least make sushi restaurants label the fish correctly and educate the public on it. My restaurants do not serve escalar because it's not a good fish for people to consume. The more you consume it over time, it's going to give you something called I don't even know if I could say it on the radio show, but it has something to do with gastrointestinal issues.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and you'll have a lot of it.
Wow.
Yeah,
and it's marketed as white tuna.
It's marketed. Yep, you're right. It's marketed as white tuna.
But it has nothing to do with tuna.
Zero. It's not even the species or the genus of the tuna family. Not even close.
That's just wrong.
Oh yeah. But it's just like, but then it preys on uneducated owners. It preys on uneducated chefs. But it's the fishing industry, and we're always looking for new proteins to sell, new forms of food, and I understand that, but unfortunately, escalar is not the right fit.
Yeah, that's actually been a recurring, not recurring, but sometimes I always read about studies, investigative journalism, where they go to sushi restaurants and order different kinds of sushi, and then they do tests to see if it really is. And it's not just for white tuna, right? I mean, even apparently other kinds of fish get sold under different names. And
oh yeah. I mean, it's that's what happens. It's a lot of what the market dictates. It's in the marketing. It's in what products that they want to push, and we're basically the end users. So a lot of us don't know any better unless you have this hankering desire to find out everything that's going on, and that like for me, I need to know exactly what I'm serving. I know exactly where my fish comes in every day.
Right.
And I know what which, like, let's say if it's a fish farm that I'm working with, well, I need to know what kind of feed they're giving the fish at that fish farm. Is that fish farm even set up adequately? Is it overcrowded? All sorts of different things goes into it. And if I ask a distributor about information about those farms, and if they can't provide it to me, well, then I'm just not going to use your company. It's that simple to me. People need to understand where the stuff comes from. Be more vigilant about the knowledge of the products that they're using. Especially in this day and age, everybody's best friend is Google, and they can find out things from their best friend all day long. I mean, there's just no hiding behind anything. There's no mystery behind any type of things like trades. No trade secrets anymore. I mean, you just got to do the right thing by the public, anyways. And I'm just glad that my business, we've adopted that mindset very early on, being open and transparent. My customers are not just my customers; they're my partners, and a lot of my customers, they're actually my bosses. So if I don't take care of them, well, I'm not going to get a paycheck in the long run. And so it's really just having an open dialogue with your customers, with your distributors, with your vendors, just trying to run an honest business. And I think that's the best way to go.
Thanks for joining us today, Jimmy, and sharing how you accelerated your company's high-value sales.
Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you for having me.
We've been speaking with Jimmy Liang, the founder, CEO, and chef of JP Fuji Group, about his company's rapid growth. For interviews with other fast-growing, high-value sales companies, or to learn how we can accelerate your firm's high-value sales through automation, visit eversprint.com.